Let me ask you a question. Why exactly are you watching my channel? I have a feeling it is because you love cars just as much as I do. Maybe you like car design as well. But what exactly is the reason for why we love cars so much? For me, it goes back to my childhood and the cars we used to have, and also the connection we used to have with the cars that we were around, meaning that you could actually sense if the car itself was ill, if it was feeling sick, and then you knew how to fix it yourself. You could cure whatever problem the car had, and you built this emotional connection to this machine that started to feel like part of the family. And now we have a brand new Mercedes GLC here. I'm pretty sure what I'm going to say in this video is going to be the opposite of what a lot of people think about this GLC, but to me, there is a lot of good about this design. There's a lot of good going on in the exterior design. The interior as well, even though the screen is just... I was joking when we made the iX3 video. I said we might as well have 42-inch TVs in the dash now. Mercedes took that literally, because now we have a 39-inch full screen across the entire interior, and I don't know where this is going to stop, but I still think this is a step forward for Mercedes when it comes to interior, believe it or not. I'm gonna let you know exactly why. And looking at this design here, I mean, again, like we did with the BMW, let's just jump into Photoshop straight away here. For straight front view, straight rear view of the Mercedes GLC. This is the electric version. I want to do some small tweaks to this design. For example, check this out right here. The front end, the grille just goes down way too far. I don't understand why. It doesn't need to go down that far. And in the rear, we have these two parallel lines housing the key graphics, but we also have the internal pieces not following anything that goes on in the outline of the graphics. So what I want to do is just simple changes like this. So let's pop in the changes right here, and let me show you. We have the grille sitting a little, just tuck the grille up and remove this lower lip that hangs down for the Mercedes when we have it, you know, full grille like this. And for the rear end, simple, just create a couple of indents in the rear end right here to create a bit more dynamic feel and not have the two static lines going straight across there. Those are just two small details that to me just... I mean, I think it looks better when we just have a smaller grille that doesn't stick down and intrude on the lower half of the graphics. That's just, of course, my opinion. We're going to have a look at this design from, of course, the front, side, and rear, and everything about this new design. The side view as well, and also, of course, this new interior. We need to talk about this interior, but before we do that, as always, let's jump into Car Scoops and have a look at what they have to say about the spec and tech of the new 2026, I do believe, a Mercedes GLC. So all-electric Mercedes GLC has a grille big enough to swallow BMW. The new all-electric GLC EQ is bigger than the ICE model, surprise, surprise, and debuts with an overhauled interior. The new GLC with EQ technology is what they call it right now. We don't have any EQ lineup anymore. Everything is just EQ technology. Will be sold alongside a combustion-powered version. Great to see that. Premiering on the new model is Mercedes-Benz 39-inch seamless MBUX Hyperscreen. If I sit in this interior for too long, I think I'm gonna get anxious. Like I'm gonna feel anxiety because I have a screen at all times on in my face when I'm driving. And the last thing I want when I'm driving is to have screens, because I have screens in my face all day. Now I have a 39-inch TV right, you know, shining right in my face when I'm driving. So BMW has moved away from massive kidney grills. Mercedes has doubled down on the industry's fascination with huge grills. The all-electric SUV will join the Mercedes lineup in the first half of 2026, serving as a successor to the poor-selling EQC. Let's see what the EQC look like. So here we have the EQC right here. Looking at the EQC, it actually does not look too bad in the proportions. It doesn't have this blob design that I thought it was going to have, but the front-end graphics still have these EQ vibes to it, where it had this mask, which I was never a fan of when it came to the EQ series. So that one does not sell well, and this is going to replace that one. Similar proportions and a familiar shape as the current ICE model, ICE Power GLC, but features all new front and rear fascias for the Mercedes brand. Now offered in an illuminated version, the grille, with 942 backlit small little dots. Some might love it, while others will think it's cheap and tacky. Personally, I think it's just too much, because it's the only graphic. We're going to talk more about that when we jump into Photoshop, but it's the only graphic that has this type of standoutness to it. It's so overly defined, the grille. I don't understand why they had to do that. It's similar star-shaped LEDs, LED lights, and a two-piece roof spoiler in the back right there. So Mercedes has long built some of the finest interior on the market. For example, the old Mercedes 190 here. If you open this door up, what a beautiful interior. Unfortunately, you can't see it right there in the camera, but inside here, very, very beautiful looking interior. Quality, the most over-engineered vehicle in the world, I do believe, was the Mercedes 190. But now, the tech-heavy design is highlighted by the new seamless hyperscreen measuring 31.9 inches and stretching across the entire width of the dashboard, okay? Ambient lighting system, you can even have the ambient lighting in the panoramic glass roof. I do like the styling for the glass roof. It looks pretty cool, even though I'm not personally a fan of any sort of sunroofs. You got two cup holders and two wireless phone chargers on the floating console, making for what is a very minimalist design by Mercedes standards. Here we can see the interior. The seats look great. The seats look very, very comfortable. I do like the door ambient lighting here as well, and the center floating portion that we have right here in the middle. But we're going to go into details, so I'm going to let you know exactly why I think this is still a step in the right direction, even though we have this massive screen, and these vents look absolutely gorgeous. I mean, these are some of the best looking air vents I think I've ever seen in a car. The wheelbase stretches 117 inches, making it 3.1 inches longer than the combustion model, and that is usually what we have in EVs. They stretch the wheelbase out, even though in this case it really does not look like the wheelbase look off, like they almost every single time do in EVs. The range will launch with a flagship GLC 400 4MATIC with 483 horsepower, twin motor system, not twin turbo, I wish, but 4 other versions will follow. So you got 4 other versions following this. Performance times haven't been announced, but they say it will go up to 443 miles, which is not bad at all. 330 kilowatt fast charging, also pretty impressive. Can add about 186 miles in 10 minutes. Pretty good, pretty good. You have airmatic air suspension, rear axle steering. The air suspension also uses Google Maps data to ensure the car is at its lowest possible setting for as long as possible. For example, if you're on a highway, Google Maps still knows that you're on the highway. You're not cruising in some back roads. You're just going through some road work. You need to slow down. The GLC will still sit in its squatted position. So you have significantly improved the brake regen system. Love to hear it. This is what I want in every single EV. I want it to be, when I drop off the gas, I want my head to almost fly forward because of the regen braking setting, and that seems to be the case here, providing up to 300 kilowatt of regen. Not bad whatsoever. So great to see that. And with that said, let's jump in. Let's jump in here to Photoshop. I have so much to say about this design, and the reason why I think this is, in fact, a step in the right direction. Because if you saw the CLA, you know the CLA front end with this, it looks like a fish. I'm not sure exactly what fish I'm thinking of. With this bar up top, you have the grille almost cutting up to the bar, and then you have the lower section with the intakes. Thankfully, that is not the design we see right here. The headlight unit honestly feels like the headlight unit is the exact same. I could be wrong here, but the outline looks to be almost exact same like we have in the current GLC, which is beautiful. We have a daytime light up here, and Mercedes just they need to put in these star patterns now in every single new model. I guess it's fine. The problem I have with it is that it does not follow any sort of the outline for the housing for the headlight unit itself. I would want to have something like this, like an LED that flows nicely, have a friendship with the framing for the headlight unit itself. This star just sits right here in the middle, like it's out in the middle of the space. And does not have a connection to anything around it, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. And then we have, of course, this massive grille. So the thing I think about, what I think about this grille is, if you look at every single other detail around this car, I mean, doesn't have to be only in the front end. All the key graphics in the front end, lower section right here, headlight unit, wheels. You have the taillights as well, and then you have the grille having this chrome outline to it. First of all. Which seems unnecessary to me. It also seems unnecessarily thick to have this chrome framing for it. Then we have a massive Mercedes logo in the middle, which is totally fine. And on top of that, we need to have this be illuminated as well. It's like the grille is just in the front end shouting for attention. And it doesn't need to do that. We don't need to have the grille shouting for attention because it's already big enough. So this chrome feature that we have going around it, we don't need this. We can make it smaller, we can make it black outline to have it connect with the black graphics we have in the headlight unit, the graphics we have down here around the intake in the lower, so everything else is black, but for some reason they decided to make this chrome. And on top of that, like I showed you in the beginning with the redesign, I do think it sticks down too much. It intrudes too far down in the lower half graphics and cuts through here. I don't want to see that. I want to have it sit a lot higher up and be a little less squared off and more stretched out horizontally. And I don't know. I don't know about these 932 small light dots or whatever the number was. Not sure if it's necessary to have that. I would not want to have that in my Mercedes. I would just want to have make it a big Panamericana grille like this with some black, AMG vibes in there. That would be pretty cool if we just lifted it up a little bit like it did in the redesign. So those are my thoughts on the front end design. Not too bad, to be honest. It's just the graphic features that I have a problem with, even though it looks a lot better than the mask design that we had on the EQ series for pretty much every single EQ. Now looking at the side view, we can see that the wheelbase, we can see that this is an EV just by looking at the wheelbase, even though the proportions are not too bad. It doesn't look like the rear axle sit all the way back here like it does on a lot of other EVs. The proportion, it looks pretty balanced to me. I do like that we have a pretty traditional styling here as well. This hood feels like it goes straight out, and this is something Mercedes changed up pretty quickly from the EQ series when you had the A-pillar going all the way to this point and then just floating, melting in like this, which was not a good idea for Mercedes as a, their design DNA. We have the greenhouse here as well, looking pretty traditional as well. I do like that it slopes down like this, having radiuses everywhere, beautiful. The wheel design look decent for this specific spec. You can see that we have the EV style with these pieces in between the spokes being covered up, which is totally fine because we have them in silver. Thankfully, I think we're starting to come back to silver wheels. I see it more and more now in new cars. Very, very nice to see that. I'm so tired and sick and tired of seeing black wheels on every single new car. One detail that I thought was pretty interesting is if you look at the side view and you focus in on this area right here, one thing I was considering changing up a little bit is the taillight housing. You see how it goes right here? This corner is what I want to focus on. How it's completely round. It's completely rounded. It doesn't have sort of a cutoff in the top, or it doesn't have a cutoff in the bottom either, which makes it feel a little bit static to me. It would be nice to have a cutoff like this in the lower section, but then I thought about it, and if we draw a line here, when you draw 50% of this somewhere around here of the height of the vehicle between this graphic up here and these graphics in the lower section, this sits right in the middle of that height. So it kind of makes sense that this should balance out this line that goes up here and this line that goes in the bottom, because these two create this pull top, and then you have the pull in the bottom, and then you have the center portion being this pretty static looking curvature that you have for the taillight unit, but it sits right in the middle between these two graphics, so it doesn't really need to have a pull in either direction, and that is the reason why I decided to just leave it like it is. It actually makes sense to have it like that. Looking at the front end again, look at how just straight up, we don't have bumpers in cars anymore, so this, same as BMW, if you drive into a wall, it's going to be a very, very expensive repair bill, because you have to replace this entire grill, which I don't know how much this grill costs. If you just want to buy it, for example, and hang it up on your wall, it's probably a very, very expensive feature on the car. Now looking at the rear end, this is, again, I mean, looking at the front end of the grill, obviously the rear end is going to be a little more harmonious to look at than the front. So this is going to be, again, my favorite view, the 3/4 rear view. And I really like what Mercedes did here, to be honest. I think it's a beautiful design with these blacked out housing and these round circles, even though, again, you can see that nothing inside of the housing has a connection to what's going on with the framing for the key graphics. And that is the reason why I wanted to redesign this piece right here, to have, you see this line right here, have it follow the outline of the framing, just to add something in the graphics in the rear that has a connection to what's going on inside the internal pieces of the taillight unit. Here, you can turn them on and off like that real quick so you can see the changes. And other than that, I think it's a really, really cool looking rear end. But Mercedes, they just have to. They can't help themselves but adding this feature on every single vehicle they put out. I don't understand why they always have to have this little... It's probably a fake air outlet right there. It's fake in some cars, it's real in others. But this being the GLC, I don't necessarily think it needs to reduce the pressure inside of the wheel well and shoot out some air here. It's not that much of a performance vehicle, if that makes sense. And another reason why I don't like it in this vehicle is because if we draw the line here, you can see that it clashes with the line flow. It sits right in between these two lines that otherwise would have a clear connection. This could just go straight in and say hello to the side view right here in this view, but it's now blocked by this graphic. And that is the reason why I don't understand why Mercedes had to put it in this vehicle like that. Now last but definitely not least, this interior. So I feel like I have a lot of explaining to do, because I said I feel like this is a step in a... maybe not the right direction, but a better direction than what we had from Mercedes previously. And the reason being the integration of this hyperscreen now. Now, this screen sits in two parallel lines like this. You have a camera here for your Google Meets and Zoom calls where your boss, you can stream while you're driving. I'm not sure, you know, if there is one place that I would not want to think about work, it's when I'm driving. But this, you can. If you want to go in and have a Zoom call with your boss, you can have that because you have the camera right there. But if you look at the previous hyperscreen, it went down all the way something like this. So it was, I don't know if it was bigger or not, but the integration of the previous screen was just way over the top. You had three screens, one screen here, one big in the middle, and then one here, all combined under this panel of glass. Here, at least it looks a little cleaner, in my opinion. And the details of this, I feel like this is still a Mercedes quality for the interior details. The ambient lighting going into the doors here, the steering wheel. I've always been a fan of Mercedes steering wheel the last couple of years. And then, of course, we do have these absolutely beautiful looking vents. These are type of details that I love to see in interiors, specifically in 2026 model years, where you feel like the designers actually, you know, put some time and effort into sculpting the small details of the interior. At least, even though we have a 39-point screen, at least we got that in these details. You can also see that right here in the center portion with these air outlets, air vents right there. We have a pad here for charging, wireless charging pad, 2 cup holders, and you also have, of course, now all the climate settings, unfortunately, being integrated in the software, which is very, very unfortunate to see. That they moved away from the physical buttons. I think we're going to go back to physical buttons eventually, because I honestly think that 90% of people maybe want to still have physical buttons in their cars. So very interesting design from Mercedes, with the big grille that I think takes up a little bit too much attention in the front end. It doesn't have to do with the size, it just have to do with how they implemented the graphics in the front. But other than that, I honestly think this is a pretty good looking SUV.